On the Republican side of the race, a new Siena College poll shows Donald Trump with a huge lead in New York, garnering the support of 50% of likely Republican voters. John Kasich has 27% support and Ted Cruz has 17%. We're less than a week away from New York's primary, and Cruz and Kasich are already looking ahead to the next contests. They've been campaigning in Pennsylvania and Maryland. Donald Trump, on the other hand, is still looking back. He's stepping up his attacks after Cruz swept Colorado's 34 delegates last weekend. But he's not aiming his fire at Cruz. He's aiming it at the party he hopes to someday lead.
In Colorado right now, they're picketing and going wild because the bosses and the establishment and the people that shouldn't have this power took all of the power away from the voters. So the voters never got to vote. And the voters didn't know that except when I got up and complained, because they did it after I joined the race, and they figured I'd probably win Colorado, which I would. I would win Colorado because it's a rigged system, folks. The Republican system is a rigged system. And what it does is allows the bosses to pick whoever they want.
RNC Chairman Reince Priebus, who had avoided any direct criticism of Trump, is firing back. He put out this tweet: "Nomination process known for a year and beyond. It's the responsibility of the campaigns to understand it. Complaints now? Give us all a break." And here's what Cruz is saying.
You may have noticed Donald is very unhappy about this. He has been yelling and screaming and stomping his foot, and an awful lot of whining. And the simple reality is, anytime the people vote against Donald, he screams the voters are stealing the election. Well, that's actually how elections work. The voters choose who our next president will be.
CBS News senior political editor Steve Chaggaris is in our Washington newsroom. Steve, Reince Priebus has consistently avoided anything that might be construed as criticism of Donald Trump. Why this change in attitude?
I think he feels he has to push back. There's a sense, I think, that we might be setting up for a pretty messy situation after June 7th. If Trump continues the way he's going right now and doesn't clinch the nomination by June 7th, we could be looking at a scenario in which he has received more delegates, yet didn't get a majority of the delegates than any of the other candidates. He could have won more states than any of the other candidates, and he'll have more of the popular vote than any other candidates. And so he's setting up an argument suggesting that even though he's won on those metrics, he hasn't clinched the nomination, and the RNC is moving to sort of rig it to deny him the nomination. I think what you're seeing Priebus saying here early on is this isn't a rigging. This isn't, we're not trying to prevent anybody from getting the nomination. There are rules that everybody should be playing by, that everybody should know, and suggesting that Trump doesn't really fully understand the rules that are in place.
Let's talk about Ted Cruz. Marco Rubio is hinting that he's closer to endorsing Senator Cruz. It's almost a month since Rubio left the race, and he said until this week that he's not ready to endorse. But how much would a Rubio endorsement actually matter for Ted Cruz?
Well, Rubio then pulled back a little bit today, suggesting he wasn't making an endorsement. I'm not sure how much of an endorsement, unless it was a full-throated endorsement and he could sway the delegates that would be released by his endorsement to Cruz. I'm not sure how much of it would help. I mean, we saw a lot of actually tepid endorsements from people like Jeb Bush and Lindsey Graham and others who had run before. So the question is how much of an endorsement at this point would help Cruz. I think what it does is, again, it's another person that's coming out against Trump. But Rubio, what he's trying to do here, I think, is not actually go out and endorse Cruz. I think he's trying to suggest that Cruz, of the people who are left, is the best choice. But he also wants to keep his cards close in case there does become an open convention and Rubio still has these delegates in his pocket, and perhaps maybe he could make some noise at the convention himself.
Steve, there was also a somewhat unlikely meeting Wednesday between Donald Trump and Fox News' Megyn Kelly. In a statement, Fox News said Kelly requested a meeting with Mr. Trump, which took place at Trump Tower this morning. Kelly has acknowledged in recent interviews that Trump is a fascinating person to cover and has electrified the Republican base. Is this an end to the standoff, potentially?
I think it probably is. You don't bring her over to Trump Tower and not have a nice conversation with her. I think this is the latest in a series of changes we've seen with Trump and the campaign. He's hired some purely political people who have presidential campaign experience. I think you've seen Trump change his tone just a little bit. It was interesting. He did a town hall with CNN last night, and his family was sitting there, and it wasn't the standard Donald Trump swinging at everybody. It was a little bit more subdued. I'm not saying he's fully changed, but I think you are seeing changes in his campaign, not only his campaign structure, but in terms of how he's communicating with people. And this just seems like another step. He has actually tomorrow is going to meet with members of his staff is going to meet with members of Congress about his campaign as well. So I think you're seeing changes in the campaign, them becoming a broader, more presidential type campaign.
Steve, before I let you go, Ted Cruz tweeted out this video of himself riding a roller coaster in Erie, Pennsylvania. We've talked a lot about photo ops recently, and Cruz refused to don a cheese head in Wisconsin, saying no funny hats in politics. What are your thoughts here?
The tweet was cute, where he says sometimes a campaign is a roller coaster. I don't know. I probably would have taken off my sport coat if I'm going to get on a
You don't regularly wear your sport jacket?
Right? Roll the sleeves up a little bit. I don't know. It just seems a little. I don't know. He seems too senatorial, maybe.
It's very formal on his roller coaster
though, I
rides.
guess.
Yeah,
right?
He's a formal kind of guy, I guess, Steve.
I guess.
All right, Steve Chaggaris in Washington for us. Steve, thank you.
Thanks.